This week, how well do you know your American geography? We've got some really interesting questions and facts. Plus, what campgrounds are the hardest to book in the U.S.? We've got the list. This is RV Miles. Welcome to episode number 327 of RV Miles. I'm Jason.
And I'm Abby. And we are two RVers who, along with our three boys, are currently on our summer RV vacation. Here at RV Miles, we talk all things RV and outdoors, from industry news to travel destinations, our national parks, and a whole lot more.
Well, after a bit of a hiatus, Abby is back here with us. Welcome back to the show, Abby.
I'm very happy to be back. Thank you to you for holding down the fort here for the last 4 episodes while I took some time away to deal with some personal stuff. And so I'm very glad to be back. It feels really nice to be back here at the campground, returning to the RV Miles podcast in a very familiar place, wearing some very familiar headsets.
Oh, yeah, we're in the headsets in a long time.
We have it. We have been reunited with the headsets, yes. And we've also been reunited with filming outside at a campground in the summer, which comes with heat, humidity, and a very weird need to constantly mow. It just seems like we can't do RV Miles without the campground being like,
well, and today they're not mowing. They're taking a leaf blower. This is summer, by the way. Yeah. They're taking a leaf blower to blow leaves off the gravel onto the side of the, and there's hardly any leaves. It's just like busy work. It's not even a thing.
It's not a thing. So we had a storm come through last night.
This is true.
Very quick, out of nowhere. And I did notice today as I was driving Jack to the film studio, I did notice today several relatively biggish trees that were laying over along the highway. So we here in the campground did not get, I think, what they got a little bit further north of us. They got quite some severe weather a little bit further north up into actual Charlottesville. We're about 10 miles south of Charlottesville. But maybe today they just felt like the gravel, people needed to have nice, clean gravel roads with, I don't know, Jason. I mean, the gravel has grass growing through it and it's gravel.
I mean, it's a nice campground, but
it's fine. It's just busy. It was just busy work. And clearly it was because they saw Jason and Abby get the camera equipment out.
But Jack and I took 3 days to get here over about 900 plus miles. Now we were hauling a trailer, but you came to meet us here. You arrived on Monday and you went over 1,000 miles in 2 days.
We did. So it was Ethan, Henry, and I. We left on Sunday. The party for my friend that passed was Saturday night. I'm going to share a little bit more about Beck and what we did for her on Saturday. It was not a traditional funeral. It was not a wake. It was very specific to Beck, and I thought it was amazing, and I actually would love something like that similar for me when it is my time. I'm going to share about that over in Mile Markers. So for you Mile Marker members, we'll talk a little bit more about that week. And, again, I can't say it enough, but to all of you who supported me and then supported John and his family and continue to provide that support and care, thank you. It has been really, really amazing for them. But yeah, we left Sunday. We got on the road at 7:30 a.m. with the need to do that day 717 miles. Not that I was counting it to the exact mile, but I was. So we did 717 miles on Sunday. That got us into West Virginia. We crossed 5 states on Sunday, and then we slept, woke up the next morning, which happened to be Ethan's 14th birthday, which is why I was trying to cover so many miles on Sunday, because I did not want us to have a long drive day on his birthday. I wanted us to get here so that we could be here by the time Jack got out of camp and we could all have the day together for Ethan's birthday. So we covered another 300 miles on Monday to get here to the, as the locals say, Seaville. So we arrived in Seaville.
Well, we're very glad to have you back. We wanted to begin the show today with this press release that the folks at The Dirt sent us. We love them. DYRT, thedirt.com. They do all sorts of campground tracking stuff. And this article is about the most difficult to book public campgrounds in the U.S. And this is based on what percentage of capacity these campgrounds operate at generally, like how full they are. So I want to run down this list really quick. I'm going to do it in the reverse order. Let's do 10 to the top and see if we've stayed at any of these.
Okay.
Twin Lakes Campground in the, is it the Inyo National Forest or Inyo? I don't know.
Don't look at me.
In California, which is 93.7% booked.
Okay.
The Coulter Bay RV Park at Coulter Bay Village. This is, of course, the very popular campground at Grand Teton National Park that also gives you south entrance access to Yellowstone National Park. That one operates at 94.9% capacity. So, I mean, remember, this is including like shoulder season stuff as well, right?
Yes. This is a high on my list. So we've not stayed at either one of these campgrounds so far. This one is very high on my want to stay list.
The Fruta Campground at Capitol Reef National Park, 95.9%. You know, a lot of people doing that Mighty Five tour, traveling to the different campgrounds at the big five national parks.
We've tried to get into
Utah.
that one. No success.
The Aspen Glen Campground at Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado, 96.1%.
Tried for that one too.
Hurricane River Campground at Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore in Michigan, 96.8%. That one surprised me a little bit because the shoulder season can be very, very shoulder up there, right? Kirk Creek Campground, Los Padres National Forest in California is number 5, 97.5%.
I am surprised that this is the only California campground on this list.
No, the first one was. The Twin Lakes one was also California. So two
I missed
of them are
that.
in California.
My bad.
Yeah.
Again, geography. Not my strength.
And both National Forest campgrounds in California.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm still surprised that they only took 20%.
Geography, not your strong point. This is going to be a fun episode for you.
I know, because you're going to ask me the questions and I have to try and answer them. We should have really brought Ethan on.
Sure.
This would have been Ethan's jam. Okay.
Number 4. So this is one we have been to.
Yes.
Spoiler alert, this is the only one on the list we have been to. This is the 7 Points Campground at J. Percy Priest Lake in Tennessee. This is essentially in Nashville. It's a Army Corps of Engineers campground, I believe.
Yes.
That gives you immediate access to Nashville, and the sites are incredible.
So we've stayed there one time. We've never forgotten the time that we've stayed there. We've tried several times since. We stayed there, I feel like, so this was bus days when we stayed there. So this would have been between 2016 and 2019.
And it wasn't full.
It was
like
not.
It is now at, what was the percentage? 97.6% full.
And I feel like we just got in there before people figured out the secret to that campground, because we've tried numerous times since then. And look, we're not booking, 6 months out. So when I say we've tried numerous times, I'm looking a couple months ahead, maybe a week ahead. I'm trying for even last minute in some of these places. And especially with the bus and with the Sabre, that's very limiting because there's,
I remember
large rigs,
the site we stayed in very well. It had multiple tiers.
Yes.
It had a big cement round picnic table that could probably seat 8 people at least. And it just had all the room in the world for the kids to play. And all the sites at this campground were huge.
Yes, that's the thing. It was huge. The site was enormous.
And, I mean, I don't think huge is conveying the desired effect, because when we think of a large campsite, these were like home sites. Like you could literally build a home on some of these campsites.
Yeah, this site in particular. Now, I think this was not every site is like this in this campground. So this is one of those sort of pull through with the site out, your door. There are definitely other ones there that were more traditional back-ins. But again, you know what you're going to get with an Army Corps of Engineer campground. This is one of the reasons why we love them so much, because unlike maybe what's happening in some of our state parks and certainly what you see in a private campground, they're not cramming us all in. A lot of these campgrounds have been the same 40 sites in the campground, this huge swath of land, since the Army Corps of Engineer built that campground. So, generally with an Army Corps of Engineer, you're going to get a massive site. And this one does not disappoint. And this is another reason why I think a lot of these on here you're looking at national forest. You're looking at public land campgrounds as being the top, because it's within something we all want to do. But also a lot of these campgrounds don't have hundreds and hundreds of sites.
Yeah.
That's part of the appeal of them, right? Yeah. So that's really why they're harder to get into, because the capacity is so low.
Next on the list is Devil's Garden Campground at Arches National Park, 99.2%. Next is 12 Mile Beach Campground at Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore in Michigan. So this is the second at Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore at 99.4%. And also at 99.4% is number one, the Nevada Beach Campground at Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit. So Lake Tahoe is up there at number one. So I think some of those were a bit surprising to me. Not necessarily that those are surprising, but that some other ones aren't on this list, like Watchman Campground in Zion.
Yeah. Watchman for sure.
I'm sure that's in the top 20.
It has to be. I've said it a couple of times. I'm surprised there's not more Yellowstone Fishing Bridge or something of that nature. Any of the Yellowstone campgrounds are not on there. But there's some secret sauce up there in Michigan that's not so secret anymore.
All right, we're going to look at some geography fun in just a moment. But first, chances are you've seen them on the road. That's because Blue Ox designs and manufactures the best towing products in the industry. Just look around. You'll find them on highways, in campgrounds, and anywhere you find people traveling in the great outdoors. From award-winning tow bars and base plates to a full line of weight-distributing hitches, adjustable ball mounts, and now they have fifth-wheel hitches too. With Blue Ox, towing doesn't have to be a drag. Visit blueox.com for more information.
And by Harvest Hosts. Harvest Hosts is a membership that allows RVers to take a rest from the road and enjoy unlimited overnight stays at over 5,100 unique locations in North America, such as breweries, farms, attractions, wineries, and much more. Easily plan and book your next RV trip and enjoy over $1,500 in exclusive member benefits by joining Harvest Hosts. Get 15% off your membership with the code MILES, that's MILES. Go to harvesthost.com to become a Harvest Hosts member today. All right, so how well do we know our U.S. geography as we sit here near Monticello, near the home of James Madison, shortly after celebrating our country's birthday? Why not a little bit of geography? And who better to ask these questions to than me?
It's not all questions. Some of it's just facts. So I won't make you, if it's totally ridiculous.
Oh, no, bring the ridiculous. It's probably the only one I'll know.
So let's start off with this one. If you combine all the Native American reservations together, so there are 326 federally administered Indian land areas, encompassing reservations, pueblos, rancherias, and other communities. The largest is the expansive Navajo Nation that is 16 million acres across Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. If you combine all the Native American reservations together, you'll get a state roughly the size of what?
Roughly the size of Texas.
Nowhere near that big.
That's unfortunate.
The size of Idaho. So, it's not a small state, but it's not a huge state. But
no.
I would have assumed that it would be bigger than that, for sure. But
yeah, I went for like one of the biggest states in hopes that was going to be the answer.
Which state has the most lighthouses in the U.S. with over 3,200 miles of shoreline?
Oh,
which state has the most lighthouses in the U.S.?
Well, this is like a game show, where you have to talk out your answer. This is like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I'm going to talk out my answer. So we could go Michigan. We could go Maine. We could go up to the coast.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, boy, we could go other places, I bet, too. Uh, you know, I just think I'm gonna say Michigan.
Michigan is right. So
How much did I just win?
We get a little handicap from being from the Chicago area, and knowing that. But I think a lot of people don't realize how much water navigation happened on Lake Michigan and all the surrounding Great Lakes.
Yeah, I definitely pulled from the Christmas schooner story on that one.
I used to work on this show called The Christmas Schooner in Chicago, which was about ships that brought Christmas trees to Chicago. And there are tons of shipwrecks. In fact, this is actually a news story that didn't make it into this week's National Park News. I cut it out for time. But a new shipwreck is being dedicated off the coast of Indiana Dunes National Park. And there are tons of shipwrecks of like these old schooners and all sorts of different types of ships in the Great Lakes that scuba divers go dive at and all sorts of stuff. And
that was really the heart-wrenching part of the Christmas schooner, was that it went down crossing Lake Michigan with all of these Christmas trees, because they're crossing in winter.
Yeah, they would travel in November, which is the worst time to travel on Lake Michigan, which has some treacherous waters, if you don't know.
And we're talking early 20th century, if I remember correctly, late 19th when this is set.
Late 19th century. And I think, for a lot of people, they just don't realize how much navigation happened on these waters. And of course, the need for lighthouses on all these waters, with all the goods coming through the St. Lawrence Seaway onto the Great Lakes and getting into the middle of the country and even across into the Mississippi River and heading down the entire center of the country. It was really important route of navigation before trains, especially.
That's a really great show. I wish someone in Chicago, it's a Chicago show too. I wish someone would pick that back up for the holiday season. It is actually really feel good. I know we just talked about how the heart.
Yeah.
Boy, this geography show's really turned it into like a serious downer.
Here's a great question. If you plan to head to Africa by boat, which state is the closest to launch from?
Okay. I am going to say, I'm gonna get skewered for this. Let's see. Well, I could take a plane to Europe and launch from there.
No, if you're taking a boat from the U.S., from mainland U.S., which state should you leave from?
Maine.
To get to Africa. Maine is correct. I think most people would guess Florida, but Maine is actually closer.
Well, so here's how I did the Abby math on this, is how I answered it, is that I was like, well, it's got to be a jump off from where you would want if you were going to Europe. So it eliminates all of the West Coast, really, because when I went to Japan, that's where we jumped off from, was LAX. So I've got to go to the other side. So I just figured I'll just grab the furthest east state and cross my fingers, since I couldn't take a plane.
There are 3 mountains in the lower 48 states that are roughly the same height. They're the highest mountains in the lower 48 states, and they are all roughly the same height. They happen to be, though, in 3 different mountain ranges. Can you name at least 2 of them? Can you name one of them? Let's just say one of them.
Well, my first thought was the 14ers in Colorado, but you said they're in 3 different states. So
they're in 3 different mountain ranges.
Or mountain ranges.
They are also in 3 different states.
Okay. I don't know. Part of me wants to say Pikes Peak is one of them, but that feels like a really easy answer and maybe too tall. I'm just going to...
These are the 3 highest.
The 3 highest mountains.
It can't be too tall. Yes.
Okay. then I'm going to stick with Pikes Peak.
Okay.
Only because that's popular and it's really the only one coming to me right now, which I know there are people probably screaming.
No, so Pikes Peak is very close. It is not one of them, however. Pikes Peak is 14,115 feet.
Yeah, Jack almost passed out on top of it.
So Mount Rainier is 14,411.
Okay.
In Washington. Mount Elbert in Colorado is 14,439.
Never heard of it.
And Mount Whitney in California is 14,505. So Mount Whitney is actually the tallest in the lower 48.
Interesting.
And those three are very close in height to each other.
Okay, so Pikes Peak was close. It was within 300.
It was within.
I'll take it. Yeah,
feet,
but okay. Good to know.
This one is one that I can't ask this as a question. I just have to tell you this fact. It is very interesting, but this is not one that would make sense.
I know what it is, and you should ask it. I'm pretty sure I know what you're about to do.
I don't think so.
Are you not going to do Arkansas?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to ask what states border Arkansas, right?
You don't be glancing over here.
I am just helping myself out.
That wasn't the question.
Okay.
That wasn't the question.
Okay.
So this is about strangely shaped states.
Oh, okay.
So the interesting thing about Arkansas is surrounded by Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Tennessee, right?
6 states.
In every single one of those states, you can enter Arkansas going south. Isn't that weird?
Did you say Missouri?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure.
Just because of the weirdness of the land borders, it follows the Mississippi River, obviously. Just because the weirdness of the land borders, every state you can't enter Arkansas going south. Every one of the states around it, you can enter from Arkansas going south. So even though Missouri is above it, on the far eastern edge of Arkansas, where the Mississippi River is, there's a little bit of land there where you can actually enter Missouri going southward.
There's the little hook or the little foot at the end on that little corner of Missouri.
And Oklahoma, that border kind of runs at a bit of an angle. There's a little notch there that goes into Texas. So every state surrounding the state of Arkansas, you can enter heading southward.
How very interesting.
What percentage of Canadians live south of Seattle?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay, I need a visual of the map
in front of you, right?
I'm using the visual of the map that is on our refrigerator, our little scratch off map that we use, and then also the idea that there's nobody living in the Yukon hardly at all. Toronto, Quebec, Montreal, Vancouver, those are all way south towards the border. So I'm leaning towards 3/4. That feels like a lot though, but a half feels like not enough. A half is definitely not enough. 3/4, 2/3. I would say have the little bit of time I have spent in Canada, it's got to be either 2/3 or 3/4. I'm gonna go.
I'll give it. That's close enough. It's 70%.
Oh, so it's like it's 2/3 basically.
Yeah, yes.
I mean, it's kind of right in the middle between that. I mean, it makes sense.
So
just
90% of the Canadian population lives within 100 miles of the U.S. border. And Seattle is actually higher than that bit of Canada that drops down into the Great Lakes between Minnesota and New York and Vermont and Maine and all that. That sort of bit is where like Toronto and Montreal are, and that is all south of Seattle.
How have we lived in the Midwest area, Chicago specifically, for as long as we did, and we never just took the little trip over to Canada? See, I mean, you did, but like, how have we not done that? I drove more on Sunday to come between Missouri and Virginia than it would take for us to have left Chicago and gone to like Stratford. Makes no sense.
How many sides does the state of Colorado have?
What?
How many sides does the state of Colorado have?
Just 4?
It's kind of a trick question. You may think it is a rectangular, but it is hexahectagon heptagon.
Like I was going to get that.
Something like that. It has 697 distinct sides due to like some weirdness of boundaries and the surveying of it.
That's a trick question.
The 4 lines of the state of Colorado are actually not straight. There are lots of different angles when you look close at the border.
Last time I looked at a map, that looked like a straight line to me. I didn't see 697 little squiggly marks.
There are 2 states where every river within its borders originates within that state. So every river within the borders of that state, it can go out of that state, but there are 2 states that every river within that borders of that state originate in that state.
Oh,
what
boy.
are they?
Is Minnesota one?
No.
Okay.
That would be a thought I would have.
Yes.
But we have there's this tendency for us to think that rivers run north to south,
yes.
and that's not really true.
It's not accurate. Is Colorado one?
Colorado is one. Obviously, it's so high that rivers are originating up high in it. Yeah.
Colorado and Washington?
No. I'm just going to give you this one,
okay.
And it'll be very obvious to you once I say it. It's Hawaii.
Oh my gosh. I was still stuck in the lower 48 because I should have been thinking about Alaska too.
We think a lot of things about the sizes of states. Like we all know that Alaska is the biggest state. And if you put Alaska on top of the lower 48, it's just huge. And, there are lots of comparisons about the size of Texas and everything. But some other states have some interesting size things to them too. For instance, Tennessee is a very, very wide state, right? Did you know that Bristol, Tennessee, which is on the far eastern side of Tennessee, is closer to Canada than it is to Memphis, Tennessee, which is on the far western side of the state?
I'm going to make a confession here. I often forget where Tennessee is located in this country. I struggle with the placement of Tennessee.
You drove through it on the way here.
Did I? I don't think I did, actually.
Oh, you mostly
I went through Kentucky.
Yeah, that's true.
I flip and want to interchange Kentucky and Tennessee on the regular. This little section here of Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, Virginia, I couldn't tell you how it's all laid out.
Which state is the easternmost state?
Which state is the easternmost state? Is it going to be like New Hampshire?
I'm not going to give you the answer. I just want you to give me one, and then I'm going to ask you another question.
It's going to be down in that clump down there around Massachusetts. Is it Massachusetts? Delaware? New Hampshire? New York?
Which state is the westernmost state?
California. Oregon.
Which state is the northernmost state?
Doesn't
have to be lower 48.
Alaska.
Alaska is the most northernmost state. Congratulations. You got that one right.
Arg.
But Alaska is also the easternmost state and westernmost state.
Oh, this is that.
The Aleutian Islands cross the hemisphere.
That's that trick question.
I would have thought, though, you would have said Hawaii for westernmost state and Maine for easternmost state, because you already said Maine is the easternmost state earlier.
But then I was thinking, I don't know. I was in trick question mode, so I was trying really hard to go against my instincts, and I just keep forgetting that I'm not playing a game that involves only the lower 48. Also, I prefaced this at the top of the show. I'm I'm garbage at this game. So
we talked about the town of Springfield on a recent episode.
Yeah, Springfield, Illinois, the home of The Simpsons. Don't come at me. I don't care what the creator says.
Somebody left a comment saying it was Oregon or Washington. I can't remember, one of the two. Was sort of where the idea of Matt Groening had, but the intention was that it's a town that is in lots of states.
A lot of Springfields in this country.
How many states actually do have a Springfield in them?
Bugger. 1, 2, 5.
Don't count. Just guess. This is not a counting question.
46.
34.
Okay.
Close enough.
Yes.
But this is the interesting part. In Wisconsin alone, there are 6 Springfields.
Wisconsin. What are you doing? What are you doing? This is sort of like this section of the country we're in right now really likes Charlottesville and Charleston for names.
Things that are based off of King Charles.
Yes.
Obviously. Yeah.
Yes. The influence of His Royal Highness in this area is quite strong.
Okay. So this is one that's not on this website that we're stealing from, but this is one that I've heard recently. What is the most popular street name in America?
Wowzers. Everyone really likes to name streets after trees. So it could be spruce, elm. It could be, I've seen a Trabue. Did you know that there's streets out there named Trabue?
But you need to be thinking more basic.
Wow. Jones, Smith.
More basic than that.
Street.
Street names.
Street. I live on street. I live on.
Come on.
Sunnydale.
The fact that I'm about to share isn't as interesting because you're not coming up with.
First off, I haven't lived on a street. My street is, what is this today? So I'm on Jefferson Avenue here at the KOA.
What you were supposed to answer was either Main Street or First Street.
Oh, I might get my Disney card revoked for that one.
But the answer is Second Street, because so many towns, First Street is not First Street, it's Main Street. So there are actually more second streets in the U.S. than there are main streets or first streets.
Main Street, USA. That's on me. But I wasn't thinking numbers. I was nature. I'm surrounded by it. So I'm very hyper-focused on it right now.
So here's something interesting that I'm just going to share because it's not really a question. So we all know there are 5 Great Lakes: Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, Lake Erie, and the other one.
Wow. Well, you've only named Superior. Wow.
Lake Superior.
Wow. Again, not the most superior of the lakes. Lake Michigan is the most superior.
But it is not.
It is. It's the best lake. Therefore, it is superior.
But so Lake Superior is often credited as the largest freshwater lake in the world. Mm-hmm. But Lake Michigan and Lake Huron are actually one lake. If you combine the two of those, they are actually the largest freshwater lake in the world. Technically, they're also not lakes, they're inland seas.
Okay, that's too much technically. Let's just get rid of Lake Huron. Bye. You're not called that anymore. You're just Lake Michigan. Welcome. We're glad to have you. And then it's the Superior Lake. And then Lake Superior is we can rename it to Lake Superior-ish. Superior-ish. I've solved this is why I should be in charge of borders and the naming of things. You're welcome. You're welcome, geography. I'm so glad to be back on the show.
Don't glance over here.
I am
So ignore my thing about Colorado having all these different edges on it.
Okay.
Most Western states have what we would generally perceive as straight borders between them. So west of the Mississippi River, right? West of the Mississippi, all contiguous U.S. state borders are either straight lines or they follow a river, with just one exception. What is the exception?
Mm. But in New Mexico?
No, it is Idaho.
I was gonna say Idaho, but then I was like, there's too many ridges
that's
two
the thing.
squiggles.
The border
between
squiggles. Idaho, I guess it would be Idaho and Montana. The Idaho-Montana border is not a river, it's the Bitterroot Mountains. It is the one that is not a river or an arbitrary straight line.
That was my first mental guess, and I batted it right out of my head and said, no, Abby, that's wrong.
This is just another fact that is on the same lines as that Tennessee one. El Paso, Texas is closer to San Diego than it is to Houston, Texas.
How close is it to New York City?
That I don't know. Get a rope. It is 724 miles between El Paso and San Diego. It is 746 between El Paso and Houston.
Huh. Wow.
We talked about how Seattle is north of most Canadian residents, right?
Uh-huh.
Did you know that parts of California, though, are also north of Canada? So the very far eastern edges of Canada drop down far enough that California state line between California and Oregon is actually higher.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
If you drew a line from Texas.
Where in Texas? Central Texas, like northern Texas.
Let's just to make it easier, let's say from Louisiana. You drew a line from Louisiana straight down to South America. Name a country, any country that you'd land on.
In South America?
In South America.
This isn't supposed to be world geography. I want to say Brazil. I can't. It's on the other side.
You wouldn't even come close to touching South America. South America is way further east than we think it is. If you drew a line straight down from Louisiana through Central America and beyond, right, you would actually take a look at the map. You would still be in the Pacific Ocean.
Oh,
South America.
Oh my gosh, Brazil actually could have been a reality.
If you drew a line straight down from the southern tip of Florida, you would graze the western coast of South America.
Okay, the font on that map, can I just say, is
fantastic.
Is the worst.
It's awful. It's fantastic. Also,
wow.
one more.
Okay.
Atlanta is closer to Chicago than it is to Miami.
I believe that. Having driven through Florida, I believe that.
All right, we're going to share in the description this article that's got all of these facts in it, because there are a heck of a lot more, because it's one of those articles that just wants you to scroll and read and see all the ads forever and ever. So there are a lot on here, and I find them very interesting. We'll probably also steal some of these for big trivia night at the homecoming rally. Which I have plans for that to be even bigger this year, with like music and like a different layout and some more fun, some more prizes. It's going to be a bigger deal.
Well, we've been doing a lot of research by going to these trivia nights in our hometown now. There's a company called, I think and Drink Entertainment, and they do multiple trivia nights every single night all over the city. So naturally, for research, we have felt that it was important for us to go to these, especially when they're at establishments or bars that we like. So we go, we do our drink, and we do our think, and we do this for research.
Yeah.
So you should be doing your research as well, especially if you have already purchased your ticket for homecoming, or if you're considering purchasing your ticket for homecoming. Those tickets are still on sale. You can just go to rvmiles.com/homecoming. In addition to trivia, we will have a cornhole, also known as the proper name, bags tournament. We will be having seminars all throughout the event during the day, including an RV consumer roundtable where we are all going to come together and we're going to talk about, as RV consumers, what are we concerned about? What do we think is working? What do we think is not working?
Put a document together and share it with important people in the RV industry.
So if you would like to have your voice heard this is this is not a BS opportunity. This is a real opportunity because this is what we want to do here at RV Miles is we want to be a true advocate and partner with the RV consumer and a real partner with the RV industry to make sure that the consumer is heard. So rvmiles.com/homecoming to pick up those tickets. Of course, mile marker members get $25 off each ticket. So if you were to become a annual mile marker member for just $70 and then you bought 2 tickets, you'd save $50. And like, that's RV math of basically just getting a membership for $20. You can't beat it. We've got lives, we've got magazine subscriptions, we've got more of us, because who doesn't want that? So you can learn more at rvmiles.com/mile markers to become a member. You can purchase your homecoming ticket at RV Miles.
But to be clear, you do not need to be a mile marker member to come to homecoming. We would love to have you regardless.
You be you. You come as you are. We will be very happy to see you. rvmiles.com/homecoming.
The RV lifestyle is about community, and the RV community is at the heart of RV Life, sponsor of today's episode. RV Life recently celebrated the 1 millionth trip plan with RV Life Trip Wizard, their excellent trip planning tool for RVers, featuring all the trusted reviews, pictures, and tips from their RV Life Campground review website. RV Life also features several blog sites and over 20 additional RVing forums to serve the RV community. All this experience and community feedback come together to help create a fantastic RV trip planner and mobile navigation tool, collectively called RV Life Pro. RV Life has marked a milestone of over 3 billion miles traveled using RV Life Pro, counting both the planned RV trips and ad hoc navigation with the included RV Safe mobile app. Take 25% off RV Life Pro at the link in the description for this episode.
All right, it is time to check the level of our tanks. And as always, this is sponsored by our friends over at Liquefied RV. And boy, have we been putting Liquefied to the test here in this heat. So you can learn more about the no BS toilet treatment solution over at liquefiedrv.com. And they are right now giving a free bottle away with every purchase.
Yeah, it's not the free bottle just for giving them your info.
No, they got rid of all 10,000 of those.
But now you can get a free bottle with purchase. They're also available on Amazon.com.
Yeah, very exciting. So, all right, Jay, what is in your black tank?
My black tank this week is people dying of heat-related deaths, particularly doing outdoor recreation things. I get it. You're on trips and having fun and all this stuff. Don't hike in 100+ degree weather. I mean, you can still go hiking when it's getting that hot outside, but like you need to stop by 10 a.m. You know, you need to be getting up at 5 a.m., go do your hike at sunrise and get back before the heat of the day.
The recommended amount of water is 1 liter per hour. If you're going to be outside.
That's a lot of water. If you think about that, that's a lot of water.
Well, when you are in extreme heat situations, that's what your body needs to have replenished in order to make up for what it's sweating out.
Yeah. And so what is often happening is people running out of water. Even experienced hikers that had lots of water don't really realize how much water they need. But it's not just about water. Water doesn't cool you. Water just supplies your cooling mechanism of sweating. And heat exhaustion, I did a whole bunch of stories for this week's National Park News Roundup on deaths and heat exhaustion and all that sort of stuff. And what I learned through this is something that I didn't know, is that heat exhaustion is something that can build over days. So just going home and going into air conditioning at night doesn't necessarily recover you from any potential of getting like heat stroke. So be very careful out there, folks.
It's very hot.
And remember, if you're going down into a canyon, it's going to be hotter down into the canyon and it's going to be harder to walk out.
Yeah, it's hot. It's going to be hot. It's going to be hot next summer. It's going to be hot for summers forever. So please, please, take that hike, enjoy that time in nature, but try to adjust your schedule so that you're not out and about at, peak between really 12 and 5.
I can't. Why are people going to Death Valley in the summer? I don't get it.
It's the challenge. In some way, I get it. Like there's this tiny part of me that's like, wow, I would really love to stand, like just for an instant, to feel what that feels like.
Yeah, maybe I would drive into the park in a day, and out, but I wouldn't hike.
I mean, clearly rangers live there.
And
I mean, clearly
sure as heck wouldn't be riding a motorcycle into the park.
No, there's sure as heck a lot of things I personally would not do, but I think you can be smart about any of these things, and you can be smart about challenges, about challenging your body and challenging your mind and challenging yourself. You can be smart about doing those things, but they really do take extra planning. And when I think about the amount of weight just hiking that I would be carrying water-wise in order to get through, a big long day hike when the temperature is going to hit 101, that my body says, no, I'm sorry. We're done with that. We don't do that anymore. You're like 44 now. No more. No. All right. What's in your fresh take? Speaking of water, I have been drinking water this whole episode because
it's hot.
It's hot. Even sitting here.
It's been hot here. We have been lucky enough to avoid too much humidity recently, but the humidity is here now.
The humidity is here. We're fortunate to have a spot that stays pretty shaded throughout most of the day, which has really helped the AC and keep the rig cool. But I brought my water out here just for this hour because I knew I was going to sweat, and I want to make sure I stay hydrated. All right, what's in your fresh tank this week? So
my fresh tank is a new fifth wheel floor plan from the folks at Primetime Manufacturing, Forest River brand. This is a Sanibel fifth wheel, if you've heard of the Sanibel brand. And I have been saying to manufacturers of RVs for years, why don't you put a bunkhouse in the front section of a fifth wheel? Why don't you do that? Because you can actually get real bunk sizes. So they have built a fifth wheel that has 4 bunk beds, 2 double sets of bunk beds on an L configuration. I believe they are actually full twin beds, all 4 of them.
Oh, I want this.
There's a desk in this room, and then there's a wardrobe in a slide, and that wardrobe has a TV in it. A lot of times in bunkhouses, in the bunk room, the lower bunks are a sofa that you have to convert. And what that does, it allows you to do a full rear bedroom for the adults.
Look at that sink.
It has 2 bathrooms with a wonderful main bathroom in the back for the adults, and a small one without a shower for the kids in the bunk room. So the kids would have to use your shower. And then the other thing, I
can live with that.
The other thing I love about this is another thing that we keep saying is in these 2-bedroom fifth wheels, right, where you've got space for lots of people.
Yeah.
Stop putting a dinette in. We all want to sit together. We all want to be able to see the TV. We will eat off of our laps. That's fine. So what they have is a giant 5-seater sofa. It has a flip-up counter on the island. So if you did want to sit at like a breakfast bar type situation, you could do that. But you don't have to. And you can all sit and watch a movie or something in this rig.
I realize I am slobbering over this right now as we talk. It is 46.
There's the issue. It's great.
It's 46.
It comes in it's under 13,000 pounds unloaded.
Yes.
It has a great cargo carrying capacity of 3,500 pounds, but it is 46 feet. However,
our truck could pull it.
Truck could pull it.
Totally.
But I think though, you could shorten a floor plan like this by either doing 1 bathroom, so like in the middle, you could do just 1 large bathroom.
Yeah.
Or the bunk room, you just don't do the desk and stuff, and you just make it a bit smaller up there.
I love the color that they put in that main bathroom in the back. They used a bluish gray, which it's so nice to see something beyond just whites and browns.
They also have a pop of color on the kitchen island, which I love, and in the kitchen.
I want this. I want this to be what we have around when we're just traveling around. Take it to homecoming, right? Like when we're traveling kind of local to our area. There's so many places we want to go to local. There's so many things we want to do. I mean, we love Bexy, I miss about the Sabre being able to film inside, being able to sit at that breakfast bar and film and do our work and have that
you're
living
missing
space.
That today for sure.
Missing it. Although we probably wouldn't have the air conditioner on in there. We would. And we just ask y'all to enjoy the background. But something like that with our growing family, something where we could still, as Jack gets older and maybe he's not always with us, but I would haul 46 feet around, like within a few.
46, that's long for some campgrounds. I mean, that's long.
Listen.
That's long.
If Todd and Sheila can do it, we can do it, okay?
Well, there's like 54.
I know. I've seen them in campgrounds.
Yeah, I've seen them struggle to get into some campgrounds too. So
I'm just saying, we would be tiny.
I think you could do a similar floor plan to this with a front bunk room or a different type of bunk room, but something similar to this that is 40 feet.
Or we can get like our favorite local get a seasonal site.
Yeah.
And put it on the seasonal site.
But we have seen a lot. There have been in the last year or two, a lot of fresh new bunkhouse floor plans. Sabre, by the way, Sabre is doing some really interesting things with bunkhouses.
You have a bee
under my glasses
that really likes you right now. So I'm going to just lean this way and let you do it.
They have some shorter models, some in like the 26-foot range with nice bunk spaces that are really interesting to us right now.
That under 30 foot that they have, that fifth wheel with the convertible 3-bunk. If I had 3 small kids.
Yeah. Of course. But that's our problem is our kids aren't small. And this is my other thing is that I wish more manufacturers like Primetime is doing here would make bunk rooms that have bunks that are big enough for adults. Mm-hmm. Because it's not always kids you've got with you. Sometimes you've got teenagers, of course, and they can get tall like our 6'5" child.
And our 14-year-old is on his way. So he's taller than I am now. So he's at least almost 5'9".
But what if you're taking the grandparents with, or you're taking some friends with, you're going on a hunting trip, whatever it might be.
Like, what if we brought Dave and Sue along to homecoming and they could have our bedroom?
And we all sleep in bunk beds and Henry sleeps on the couch.
Yes.
Or Jack.
Seriously, and that couch is long enough that one of our long kids would totally sleep on that.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
We should just purchase this as a company expense for homecoming.
Well, I think too, because they've made the front bunk room so big, it's a very long room. So there's probably a huge pass-through storage underneath there too.
I mean, we are talking about wanting to have even more get-togethers in 2025 in different places across the country. So I'm very excited about that. Like, it's just nice to see. It does feel like there's a group of us who've been asking for something similar to this for a while now, as our kids are growing and those needs are shifting. And it is very nice to see a manufacturer bringing that to life. And now we need to see how we could do that and maybe get it closer to 38.
Yeah.
Because it's a beautiful, the colors in it are beautiful. It's a great looking rig. We'll put a link to it so you can go check it out.
All right. What's in your black tank this week?
So my black tank, it goes to Avis, the place I rented the car from. I'm not going to black tank Avis in general, but whoever took on this rental car prior to me picking it up really did their company a disservice. So in order for us to meet up with Jason and Jack, I rented a car one way. So 1,016 miles is what I needed to drive it. We weren't going to bring the Tesla here and then have 2 cars going all over the Southeast. We wanted to be able to ride together in the truck. So I left the Tesla with my parents and I rented a car. So it was not cheap. A one-way is very expensive. But I rented a Mazda. They gave me a Mazda CX-5. First off, they didn't clean. I can forgive this. They didn't clean the exterior. So the windshield was covered in the bug guts of whoever had it last, to the point where I needed to clean it before I started my drive because I knew where I was heading and I knew what I was going to be adding to it, right? Like I'm heading down into like, Southern Illinois and Indiana and Kentucky and all, But the biggest upsetting part of it for me was that I got the car with a service due light constantly flashing, the oil change light constantly flashing. Basically, this car was in serious need of maintenance.
Yeah. See, what I think is that location was like, oh, great. Here's a one-way rental. We don't have to do the maintenance on this car.
Right.
Send it off to the other location so they have to do it.
Yeah. Let's make it Charlottesville's problem. And hey, whatever. Right. But I tried to go and return the car. And unfortunately, when I realized this, because my dad drove it home and then I was busy all day with this party for my friend. So I didn't see anything like this with the car until 6:45 in the morning on Sunday. Well, they weren't going to open till 10. So I didn't have a way to be like, may I have a different car? So I just needed to kind of like, hedge my bets and hope that it would all be fine. It's disappointing, and the reason why I'm black tanking it is that it wasn't like I was just driving it a couple hundred miles, but it was me and my 2 kids going 1,000 miles in like 36 hours. And to have a car that was struggled every time I needed to get on an entrance ramp. And when you're trying to get on an entrance ramp and the minimum speed limit is 70, and the truck drivers are doing 75 and 80 in that right lane.
I think it had an alignment problem too. And
you drove it, right?
Yeah,
it was not a good hang. I did not enjoy driving this car. I was very nervous the whole time going through the Appalachian Mountains.
In general, like the last several times we've rented cars, I've not been happy with, not getting the car that you requested and all this sort of. And I got one recently that didn't have floor mats and the carpet on the floor was worn through. Like
it's frustrating because it's very, very expensive, and you make this investment to do this, and I had purchased more of their midsize because I knew I was driving a long distance. I knew we were going to have luggage, and I wanted the boys to be comfortable. I could have easily have just gotten like a little tiny compact Nissan Versa, zip, off we go. Probably would have been a better car. This car also only had 30,000 miles on it, and it was driving like a car that was on its last leg.
Yikes.
So very disappointing. It is sort of a symptom, I feel like.
I guarantee you that's why they set it off with you.
Well,
it totally is.
When I got to Charlottesville and I dropped it off and the woman asked me, how was everything? And I said, oh, the trip was just fine. I said, and I know this isn't going to be your problem, and I'm sure every Avis is franchised or it's all done a little differently, but I want to let you know that where I picked this car up, all of these service lights were on, and the car is really not running well.
Well, it's great that you told them that because they wouldn't know that necessarily otherwise, and they'd just give it off to somebody else.
Yeah, and I said it didn't get cleaned. I said, so on top of the road dirt I've added to it, it has all of that from the previous driver. I said, so this car is really in need of some love. I said, it's really in need of some maintenance, or you guys are not going to have this car much longer. I said, it's not driving well. It's got 31,000 miles on it. And it's like, it feels like it's coughing into Charlottesville. So black tank to car rental frustrations, take better care of cars. And I loved the sticker that was like driving this car, want to buy our cars? And I was like, no, because clearly everyone tries to put it on, it's drivers are so rough with rentals when they rent them and they just drive them like they don't care. I argue that perhaps maybe the rental companies don't care.
When we went to Jackson Hole, my dad rented a car that was supposed to be able to fit our skis inside, right? Mm-hmm. Or at least have a roof rack for skis. Like there was something about...
Yeah, which you would think in that area is a very common thing to have.
Because they had been hit with snowstorms, whatever, they were out of what they were supposed to give us. So they offered us a Jeep, what's the Jeep with the truck bed? A Gladiator.
Yeah.
Jeep Gladiator. And they were like, well, you could put your skis in the truck bed portion of that. And we were like, oh, yeah, I guess we could do that. That would work fine. And my dad gets out to it while I'm waiting with all of our luggage. and it had like 3 feet of snow in the bed.
Oh my gosh.
And they offered him a shovel, and he's like, no, give us a different car.
Offered him a shovel?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's something. That's something.
All right, what's in your fresh tank this week?
My fresh tank is an early fresh tank to the Charlottesville area. For 2 things, coffee and wine.
There's a lot of wine here.
Listen, I rolled up here and I was like, so we're moving here, right?
Well, see if you like the wine first. Is it going to be that Southern sweet wine, or is it going to be
I have
more
done enough
complex?
No, I've done enough investigating. I don't think it's going to be what we had like in Myrtle Beach. That muscadine grape.
Yeah, it's not going to be that.
It's not going to be that. But just a little early fresh tank to this area. We unfortunately are not going to have a ton of a trip report to share about here. Jason spent all of last week just working furiously while he was by himself to ensure that when we all came back together as a family, we would be able to take some time off. And then the heat has really dampened a lot of our hopes for especially time in Shenandoah.
We've been trying to schedule our work days this week out a bit, though, so that we can work on the hot days, and we're going to have a couple cooler days at the end of the week, and hopefully we thought
you would like to watch us sweat
hopefully
on this podcast.
Hopefully we can get into Monticello and maybe go up to Shenandoah as well.
But I think this is a really pleasantly, I'm not surprised, but I do think that this is a really cool area. And if you've been considering it, but kind of thought maybe it wasn't going to be interesting enough, just the community alone and the things here to do. And even this KOA is a pretty decent jumping off point to everything too. So early kudos, early fresh tank to the Seaville area.
That's it for this week's episode of the RV Miles podcast.
Yes, it is. And hey, if you're enjoying RV Miles, will you please do us a favor and head over to Apple Podcasts and leave RV Miles a 5-star review. That review, no joke, y'all, is helping put RV Miles in front of hundreds and thousands of new listeners. So thank you every single day to everyone who is doing that. And of course, if you are looking for your next favorite piece of gear, or you want to look for something that we've talked about on a past show, it is most likely in our Amazon store. We haven't talked about that for a while, but we do have one. You just go to amazon.com/shop/RV Miles. Anything you purchase there or through the entire world of Amazon kicks a little back our way. Jeff Bezos writes us a check, and it helps to go towards everything we do here at
Not really. He's not really involved.
He personally signs. He personally
also,
from space.
Nobody uses checks anymore, Abby. So I don't know.
Jeff Bezos does. He personally signs the check from space and has it sent through his space mail back to Earth, where he finds me wherever we are in the country, and they deliver the check, and it says, "With love, Jeff Bezos." So you can do that by going to rvmiles.com/shop/RV Miles. And until next week, please stay hydrated, stay safe out there because it's hot, but also keep logging those RV miles.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.